Good evening, members of council and anyone joining us on YouTube. Thank you. We'll call the meeting to order. Before I start, I'd like to read the land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of the Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee and Pelee Island and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We'll have a moment of silent reflection and then we'll stand for our national anthem. Members of council, you had a chance to look at items on the agenda. Is there any conflict of interest for anything on the agenda? Seeing none, so recorded. Adoption of the minutes of the meeting held March 22nd, 2022 be adopted as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, support Councillor Dicho Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Any changes, corrections, omissions? All good? Okay. Mayor's comments. I do have a couple. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to extend a happy Easter to all of you, and I hope that we all have a chance to spend more time with our families this Easter weekend. Please remember to be safe when around others and stay home if you're not feeling well. Be sure to get out for a walk and enjoy LaSalle trails. This month, we're holding a brand new LaSalle Spring Fling event at LaSalle Civic Center on Saturday, April 23rd, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., rain or shine. This is a free family event that will be held both indoors and outdoors. Activities include busker-style shows, balloon creations, food trucks, and more. For more information will be shared this week, something to look forward to. And hopefully spring weather will join us. Okay, we have presentation. We have Derek Richmond from Ontario Region Campaign Coordinator at the Canadian Union of Postal Workers appearing. There he is. Welcome, Mr. Richmond.
Thank you very much. Good day, Your Worship and members of Council. My name is Derek Richmond. I'm the Ontario Region Coordinator for the Canadian Union of Postal Workers. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to Council on expanding service and protecting public post offices. Our Delivering Community Power campaign reimagines our post office to be the hub for rural communities. Using our post office as a community hub that would provide much needed services that are lacking in rural Canada. The community hub model is currently being done in 2 Indigenous communities. These hubs have provided space for nonprofit organizations, an Office Depot kiosk with broadband internet, printer, scanner, photocopier, so the community like youth, seniors can utilize these resources. These hubs could also provide much needed financial services. Currently, there is a pilot project to provide small loans through Canada Post, and it must be extended to meet the needs of rural residents that do not have easy access to financial services. Other services Canada Post could provide at a community hub is hunting and fishing licenses, space for Service Ontario kiosks, tourist information, library vending machines, space for farmer markets, and local art. Canada Post has approximately 7,000 locations that could be retrofitted with solar panels and create a secure coast-to-coast network of charging stations. This public charging network would lead to additional tourism to rural Ontario for those who own electric vehicles. Canada Post can also become a leader in providing services to seniors through an elder check-in program. COVID lockdowns have taught us that seniors were most vulnerable to the lockdowns, and a letter carrier check-in program can assist seniors that are shut in and provide additional security for seniors to live independently. Canada Post can provide delivery of groceries and medications to these seniors that have a difficult time navigating through COVID or weather conditions. Canada Post must lead the way in a carbon-free post office. Currently, Canada Post has approximately 20,000 vehicles on the road daily, and converting the fleet to Canadian manufactured electric vehicles needs to be a priority now to meet the 2050 emission targets. Canada Post must become a leader for a carbon-free delivery. To this date, close to 1,000 municipalities supported resolutions that have been submitted to the federal government on service expansion and postal banking. There are many innovative and forward-thinking ideas for a post-COVID recovery to improve service at Canada Post for rural communities and protect good-paying jobs. This will enhance our national infrastructure, social communities, and strengthen economic viability of rural communities across Canada. But we still need municipalities like the Township of LaSalle to continue to put pressure on the federal government to ensure rural municipalities receive the service they deserve from their public post office. On behalf of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, we ask that the Township of LaSalle endorse the Delivering Community Power Resolution to support, retain, enhance, and expand rural post offices. Thank you for your time and support. I'm willing to answer any questions and address any concerns council might have.
Thank you, Mr. Richmond. I'll open it up to council for any questions. I don't see any. Council's pleasure. Councilor Desjardins.
Move to receive.
Support. Councilor Reno, all in favor? That carries. Thank you, Mr. Richmond. I appreciate the presentation. And just if you ever come back again, it's Town of LaSalle, not the township.
My apologies. Thank you very much.
No problem. Have a good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay, facility use user agreement with St. Clair College. We have the chief with us. There he is.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. The report before you today is regarding the annual facility use agreement with St. Clair College. They do use our facility from time to time throughout their year for their pre-service fire program. This agreement that's before you today is for the upcoming year starting in September, but they like to have this agreement signed before the current one expires so that they can properly plan for the activities for next year. I'm available for any questions, but there are no changes to the agreement from last year. The cost is the same. The only thing that's different is the expiry date.
Thanks, Chief. Council questions? Seeing none. Council's pleasure. Moved by Councilor Carrick. Support Councilor Reno. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thanks, Chief. That's an easy one for you. Take care. And now we have Michael Capucci for the Vollmer Complex Tennis Courts Contract Award.
Hello, Mayor, members of council. This report is to be received and approved signing the contract with the Armstrong Paving for the 4 tennis courts behind the Ballmer Center. The tender price was just under $800,000, so it's within budget. The tenders closed March 14th. We had 6 bidders, so it was a competitive bid. Council might remember this one came through, I believe, late in 2021. And at that time, administration said that the price at that time was too high, and that we should bring it forward into the new year, which we did, and we got more favorable results and more tenders or more contractors bidding on the tender. With that, the administration now recommends moving forward with Armstrong and to begin the project. Hopefully, within a month, we'd be able to start.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Council questions. Councilor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Michael, thank you for bringing this forward. I know we've gotten some flack about our tennis courts for quite some time, as we've had some along Front Road that are about to be resurfaced, as well as the new ones going into the Ballmers. Is all very exciting for the racket community. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot, but I will ask a favor. If you could forward to council all the tennis and pickleball facilities that we have currently. I get a lot of mail and I get a lot of comments about our amount of pickleball. We know that we have a very passionate pickleball community in LaSalle, and a lot of us are well aware that there are plans to bring more pickleball to LaSalle, but I'd like to know exactly where, with this project, where it puts us in inventory moving forward, so that I can answer those questions a little bit better when they come to me, because I did have a chance to go check out a brand new court on the east side not too long ago. I know they're out there. I would just like to be able to say, here they are for you.
No problem. I can have that for you shortly today within the week, or tomorrow within the week. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other council questions? Seeing none, council's pleasure. Moved by Councilor Reno, support Councilor Adiccio Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now we have Mr. Burgess. Land Corps Holdings Development Red Line Amendment, Harmony Phase 2. Oh, Gudrun, I'm sorry. I apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm going to take this one for Alan. So if I could just share my screen, if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Okay. So the planning department has received a request for a red line amendment to an existing draft plan of subdivision for what's known as Harmony Phase 2 and developed by Land Corps Horizons Development. So this is an existing air photo of the property that shows kind of the limits in red of the subject lands, bounded by Huron Church, Mayo Boulevard, and Laurier Parkway to the south. So you can see that phase 1 of the subdivision was in here, and that's actually under construction now. And then phase 2 will be the lands shown in red over here. So the original draft plan was approved in March of 2021, and it shows, again, outlined in red here, a number of different blocks, as well as some single detached units, along with an associated road network that connects out to Mayo Boulevard and out to Laurier Parkway. So what the applicant is looking to do is file what's called a red line amendment request through the County of Essex to make some minor modifications to the proposed plan. The county has deemed the red line to be minor in nature. And what the applicant is seeking to do is to actually go in and create those semi-detached dwelling units within those draft plan blocks that were originally approved. So that they don't have to come back for a part lot control exemption bylaw. So, they cut out kind of a Planning Act application that way. The road network and the road pattern is proposed to stay the same. There's some modification to some block numbering as a result of the addition of the unit numbering within the plan of subdivision, and then a minor change just over here to some lot lines. The property is designated residential in the town of LaSalle's official plan, and it's zoned R2 in our comprehensive zoning bylaw, which permits both single detached dwelling units and semi-detached dwelling units. We've had some extensive consultation with engineering, and they can confirm that there's no additional improvements required, and there's adequate municipal services to be able to accommodate this change. It should be mentioned that there's no change in the unit count. So what was proposed in the original draft plan of subdivision was a total of 105 dwelling units, and that 105 dwelling unit count remains the same in this red line revision. So at this time, what we're looking for is for council to support the requested red line change, so that we're able to forward a resolution in support to the County of Essex as a way to move that Planning Act application forward. And provided that the County of Essex grants approval of the red line, we're seeking for council to authorize administration to prepare the required subdivision agreement, which will be brought forward at a later meeting of council. I'm happy to answer any questions of council, and I should also mention that we have Melanie Muir on the line, who's the developer's agent, here to answer more detailed questions if need be.
Thank you, Gudrun. Could you not share your screen so I could see everyone, please?
Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, council questions. Councillor Carrick, then Deputy Mayor Malash.
Just a quick one. I'll definitely support. I guess it's more or less lining up some lines and some lotting. I guess timelines. Any idea? They mentioned moving forward. How quickly?
I know that. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I know that Melanie Muir is on the line here, and I'm sure she can speak to a timeline more appropriately, but I am aware that the developer is looking to get out of the gate very quickly. And a lot of these units are actually pre-sold. So I'll let Melanie speak to more definitive timelines if she can.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The applicant is looking to move forward as quickly as possible. They've already gone through the engineering review. Servicing has kind of begun because they've already got the roadways and they haven't changed. We're just creating those new semi lots basically and adjusting a couple minor lot lines. All the lots, as Ms. Beggs has mentioned, have been pre-sold, and their intent is to get those building permits out to the builders ASAP. So as soon as the county can turn around their side of it, after the town hopefully approves this, we will be coming back with Ms. Beggs and the legal and engineering and planning departments to bring the modified agreement back, and they will be off and running basically. They're quite anxious to get moving.
Okay, thank you.
Before we go to Deputy Mayor Malash, just a follow up. We're waiting for the county. Is that time frame? Do you guess? I know they're pretty quick, but what would you guess as timeline for them?
Thanks for the question through you, Mr. Mayor. We have put the county on notice that this is one that we want to turn around quite quickly. So as a result of that, and being in coordination and consultation with the county on this file, they're prepared to they know what's coming and they're prepared to turn it around for us. We're actually hoping that we can get this subdivision agreement, which is ready and in draft form, to the next meeting of council, provided we get that approval from the county.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Malash.
My question's been answered. Thank you.
Oh, okay, great. All right, council's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, support Councillor Licio Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. And I guess you're going to stay here for the next one.
Actually, I'm going to let Alan take a turn for this one.
Oh, make it easy on me. Hi, Alan.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. The report before you this evening has information with regards to site plan control application and site plan control bylaw. The subject lands are 3.4 acres in size, and they're located at the corner of Mayo Boulevard and Laurier Parkway. Just one moment and I'll put up my screen for you so you can see the site. The proposed development involves the construction of 2 6-story apartment buildings containing 120 units, 196 parking spots. The proposed development meets the requirements of both the official plan and the zoning bylaw, and we're recommending adoption of the plan. Ms. Muir is also available for any further additional questions, and as well as I. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Any council questions? Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Ms. Muir, are we aware if these are going to be rental units or going to be sale units?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, they will be condo units that will be purchased. They're not rentals. They are, just for information, they are looking at developing a couple other parcels nearby, and there may be some apartment units in those, but these are all pre-sold and they are condos.
Thank you for that information.
Any other council questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Desjardins, support Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Muir and Mr. Burgess. Okay, Mr. Longwa. Final tax rates and recapture.
Your Worship, members of council, since our budget deliberation sessions in December, the education tax rate and the county tax rate have been finalized. The education tax rate was right on projected 0% change from the 2021 rate. However, the county tax rate, we estimated it to be a 2% increase, and it actually came in at a 1.49% tax rate increase. So our original estimate for the overall municipal, county, and education rate increase was 1.66%. So if we maintain that percentage, we'll have some recapture, about $100,000. That's option number one, which we could use to fund some operational pressures. As you'll see on the next report, there's definitely quite a few operational pressures that have that we've become aware of since the beginning of the year. Inflation's through the roof right now. Gas and oil prices are really high, so, and they continue to rise. And the other option is to reduce the overall tax rate, which would result in a 1.5% overall tax rate increase. So I'd be available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Longwa. We'll start with Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Dale. Just so I'm understanding this correctly, and I've read it, that this is built into the budget. This isn't a one-time payout, right? So there's $100,000 that we'll be capturing that we could put towards, say, the garbage collection or something like that. Is that what you're basically saying?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you. I'd just like to comment that I think this is one of the times when we should maybe be looking at giving something back to the ratepayer. I know it's not a huge decrease, but 1.6 to 1.5, I'm hearing from a lot of our residents that any little bit will help right now. So I would be suggesting that we do the decrease to 1.51%.
Councillor Di Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. And I too agree with Councillor Desjardins. I think that I am in favor of going with the 1.51 tax increase because I too have been hearing from residents. A lot are suffering with the COVID pandemic and setbacks with work and things like that. So I know it's a little decrease, but every little bit helps. So I too am in favor for that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reno and then Deputy Mayor Meloche.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've spoken to a couple people about this, and I was originally thinking the same as my colleagues, and how we needed to, give it back to the residents. And normally that's what we have been able to do. However, after reading the garbage report, we'll call it, after reading the garbage report, After reading all kinds of media that inflation is double, if not triple, what it normally is, I'm more worried about the next budget than anything else. And I think the next budget is going to be beyond challenging, for a choice of better words. I can't support the reduction in the tax rate. I do believe that we need that 100,000 towards this huge garbage cost and the other costs that are coming up every day. So unfortunately, I'm kind of flipping and I will not support that motion.
Thank you, Councilor Reno. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. Through you to Mr. Langlois. If we had to, or we decided to return the funds to the ratepayers, what approximately would each ratepayer see in return? So if we did, I know that's probably a really difficult, just maybe a quick, are they going to see $10 back a year, $20 back a year? What are we really talking about per each resident? Because $100,000 to the municipality as a whole, with the pressures that we're currently facing, I'm torn. I feel the same as Councillor Reno, where we've got some reports coming to us that show us that some of these costs are going up and they're going up fast, and that's just going to end up hurting us next year. So I guess what would be the effect to residents now?
For every $100,000 of assessment, it'd be $27. And right now, the average assessed value, which is not reflective of the actual current value because we haven't received a reassessment in a number of years, the average value of a house in the town of LaSalle is $250,000, the average assessed value. So 27 times, be about $67.
$67 a year is what we're saying would be going back, right?
That's correct.
I see Mr. Militia wants to add something. I think there might be an error in that calculation. Mr. Militia?
I believe that the amount that Mr. Langlois is quoting is the entire 1.66%. Not that, I think what Deputy Mayor Malash is trying to identify is what the cost differential is per ratepayer from 166 to the 151.
My apologies. You're correct.
If I can jump in here, Mr. Langlois, in your report, it says it's $2.50 per $100,000 of assessment. So average house is $300,000.
I apologize. That's correct.
So that'd be
$7.50. Trying to calculate it, but it's very minimal.
And there wouldn't be a refund. It would just be a $7.50 difference they would not pay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Deputy Mayor? You're muted.
It does. Thank you. I think my concern is we always want to help the residents, especially right now when we know things are tough. We know groceries are going through the roof, but when we look at what each resident would actually see in return compared to what the municipality is facing and what could end up happening to us at budget time next year, I think the fiscally responsible thing to do at this point would be to recapture that amount of money and put it towards the rising cost in our garbage, the rising cost in fuel, and other things that the municipality is going to face over the next year. And I know we're all sitting here on pins and needles waiting to see what MPAC does, when they're going to do it, and figure out things for municipality from there. But I think as of right now, I think we just have too many pressures that the town's facing, and I would vote to recapture the funds.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm going to go back to Mr. Langlois just to clarify a couple points. The average home in LaSalle, roughly, assessment, $300,000?
$250,000.
Okay, so let's round it to 3. So if we recapture and use it for capital, they're going to pay on average $7.50 a year more.
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear on that. And okay, council's pleasure. Oh, Councilor Reno.
We just no disrespect, Your Worship. I just want to clarify that with Dale.
Sure.
if we recapture, their tax rate is not actually changing. It's what we have already agreed to in budgets. We are simply recapturing that money to put back into the organization. Their taxes are not going up by that $7.50. They're actually staying the same. If we were to give the money back to them, they would see a $7.50 decrease over the year in their taxes. Am I understanding that correctly, Dale?
From what was advertised during our budget deliberation sessions, the estimated 1.66% overall increase would be reduced. So the original calculation that I had there, which was 60 some odd dollars per $100,000, would be reduced by $2.50. So from originally advertised.
And maybe you can answer, Dale. We know there is no increase this year. Have we heard if they're approving one for 2023 yet?
They're not. At the earliest, it'll be 2024.
Okay, so no reassessment. No impact assessment increase in 2022 or 2023. It will only be whatever we do on the mill rate.
That's correct. And again, I know I mentioned it during our budget deliberation sessions. At the end of December, the inflation was 4.5%, which is the highest at that point, the highest it had been in 3 decades. Since then, I just saw the other day in the news, it has continued to skyrocket, and it's the highest it's been in over 40 years now. So it's a major pressure that we have to maintain operations without having extra funding become available and maintain the same level of service with raising costs.
I agree. I mean, you look at what it's going to cost us in fuel for our fleet and police and fire. It's just that in and of itself. Okay, thank you. Councillor Desjardins.
Thank you. Back through you. I realize that it's not a huge dollar value, but I think it is a goodwill gesture on the part of council. Yeah, it's not a lot of money coming back to the residents, and $100,000 can be used elsewhere. But I do think that sometimes folks need to see that, yeah, we're thinking about them and we can give something back to them. So that's just my 2 cents on it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Desjardins. Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just some comments. So if we look at the next item, it's $550,000 more we're going to have to come up with next year alone. So we need to recapture this money. And I know I get that we all want to turn it back in, but this is an opportunity we can't afford to miss. For example, if we put it toward that alone, we still have to come up with another $457,000. Plus we have other things going on with the inflation. So we've already passed the budget. We went through the big budget. We all went through line items, and we did a good job of making sure that we kept it reasonable. So I think I'm definitely going to support us recapturing this money and putting it toward at least the garbage or something else that's much needed. Thank you.
Councillor Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. So yeah, now that Dale put it that way, I think I might recant, because yes, I do believe in giving back to our taxpayers 100%. However, that $100,000 would be beneficial for our 2023 budget. And so I think I am going to recant my first comment, and I'm going to go with saving and recapturing the $100,200. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reno.
I would like to make a motion that we go with option A and we recover the $100,200.
Moved by Councillor Reno. Support. Deputy Mayor Malash. Discussion. I just want to make a comment before we vote. I agree with Councillor Desjardins' point. We want to give back, but let's give back when we have a chance. This is $100,000 less that we're going to have to borrow or take out of reserves to use. So the $750 on average, people will not pay more. I think they can live with that because they know we're doing the best for the whole municipality. And that $100,000, if we can save it and possibly, who knows how much, it maybe we apply for more grants and receive grants. We're doing, I think, the right thing moving forward. I don't want to belittle the $7.50, but I think the $100,000 for us as a municipality and as a whole will go farther for us than the individual saving $7.50. And I'm not disputing the $7.50, but over a year's time, the $7.50, I think most of us can move forward with that. All in favor on the motion? Opposed, if any? That carries. We have development charges and treasurer statement. Mr. Langlois.
So, sorry, I think we have, the next one up is the garbage collection RFP results.
Oh, okay. I have final tax rates recapture, then development charges, treasurer, then garbage at number 7.
Okay. Well,
unless my...
Well, I can move to that. That's okay.
Okay.
So the 2021 development charges treasurer statement, that's a statement that's required under the Development Charges Act. It's an annual statement that's required just to talk about the development charges that we've collected and the money, the projects that we funded from development charges. So the amount that we collected was $1.6 million. There was almost $280,000 of interest, and then we spent $411 to fund our debenture payments for the Lou Romano sewage capacity debt that was issued many years ago. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Council questions? I have a couple, Dale, just to refresh our memory. That debenture will be done in 2038?
Yes, that's correct. It's a 40-year debenture.
Okay. All right. Council's pleasure. Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, support Councillor Carrick. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Oh, there he is. I'm sorry, Councillor Ekpat, I just saw your hand. You were for or against? You're muted. There we go.
I'm for, sir.
Okay, thank you. That carries. Just wanted to be sure. Okay, Mr. Langlois, your garbage collection contract. Save the
Sorry,
best.
Mr. Militia, just.
Oh, okay.
Just, Mr. Mayor, just for the viewing audience, I believe that we might went a bit out of order. I think we're back on track now. We would be at I believe this would be item 6 on the agenda, which is the garbage collection RFP results.
Okay, maybe it was reprinted. The one I have shows number 6, and then number 7 is garbage collection, but okay, thank you. Maybe the agenda was changed.
I think it was that one item was moved after the fact, probably after you printed. So I think we'll be okay from here on out.
I guess it's not good to be early. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Militia. Okay, Mr. Langlois.
Okay, so our garbage collection RFP results. So as council may recall, last year, we went out for an RFP, and there was quite a few takers of the RFP document. We received some comments back that we weren't providing enough time for a potential successful bidder. Originally, we were going to have the contract start the beginning of this year. They said, they're going to need, the companies that were bidding they said they'd need time to get the equipment ready and whatnot and get the staff. So in order to get more bidders and have a competitive process, we extended the contract that we currently have with our current vendor for a year, and made the new contract begin January 1st, 2023. And unfortunately, there were still no other bidders, even though there was quite a few takers. So we've received one bid, and you can see the price, what it's come in at, just shy of $1.3 million per year. In speaking with the vendor previously, they're experiencing inflationary pressures just as everyone else is. So that's the price that it came in at. It's pretty as I mentioned earlier, significantly higher than what we budgeted. So we're going to have to work with that for next year's budget, which is going to be one of many challenges. But if council has any questions on this, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Longra. Deputy Mayor Malash.
Thank you, Mayor Bondi. I mean, the quote is astronomical. I mean, the prices, to look at what we currently were paying to what they've quoted us. I mean, obviously with only one person returning a bid, it doesn't leave us really any options. But I'm having a hard time understanding how they could increase it so much. That's a huge jump. Like, that's not even, I guess I'm just surprised by it. And are we kind of picking up the slack for other municipalities who are in longer contracts, and that's why we're getting hit with this big jump?
Go ahead, Dale, because Mr. Militia wants to add something.
Sorry. I've spoken with all the other municipalities in the region, and municipalities that have recently went out to tender as well are experiencing the same proportionate increases.
Mr. Militia.
Certainly, Deputy Mayor, you've identified certainly a regional issue that we have. Again, just confirming Mr. Langlois' conversations at the CAO regional group. This has been a topic of discussion for us as well. And we seem to be getting it again from the garbage side. I think that if you look at our per capita cost, per household cost versus what the contracts that are recently being awarded, we are right in the neighborhood. So we are somewhere around $120 a household, I believe, which is the new norm. We came out of a cost of around $70 or $75 a household, which there are some municipalities that are still under contract at that rate. We expect that as time goes on and those contracts come forward, that they will migrate up to the rate that we are currently at. I would also say that at the regional CAOs group discussion table, we have had a number of conversations, and thankfully led by the County of Essex, in opportunities that we might have in the future to help get this back under control and see a better pricing model. So we have those conversations, but quite honestly, that is a long-term solution if there is one to be had. And as such, we will need to phase this in over time. I've already started conversations with Mr. Langlois about using our tax stabilization reserve to help ease this in over the next couple of years, because between this increase that we have and the move to organics waste collection, those are two major cost drivers that we have that did not exist last year or 3 years ago or 5 years ago, and so we are getting that as it goes on. Unfortunately, we are at the whim of the RFP process. We had one bidder and they were able to set the price. We did go back out again and only to receive one bidder again. And again, this is a similar experience that other municipalities have had here regionally. So hopefully these regional conversations lead to some differing models that are out there that will produce a bit better financial result.
Deputy Mayor.
So follow-up, I guess, would be, we are doing a one-year contract with the lack of other interested parties. Should we be looking at something more like a 2 or 3 year? Because things unfortunately don't move quickly when we start talking regionally. And I'm concerned with what they're going to come to us in 2023, or are we starting that process already?
So I believe that the report would identify it's going to be a 5-year contract. And so one of the challenges that is in this area is that if, for example, if Dale and I were to start our own garbage collection contract, now we're never going to do this, just to be clear. But if we were deciding to do this, the lead time on ordering a garbage truck is about 18 months. So any other new vendor that might want to come down to this area and start the process will need a significant amount of lead time on equipment order and site location. So, as much as our contract is a 5-year contract, it will likely line up well if these regional conversations are fruitful and yield a result. I also believe that part of the regional conversation, again, depending on how well they go, will lead to a phased in approach when it comes to bringing customers online. So we, unfortunately, we're caught really between a rock and a hard place, and we are seeing this cost escalation. And as much as we hate to tell council this, we don't have much choice in the matter. If we want to collect garbage, this is the price today, and we're hoping to find a better mousetrap for this in the coming years.
It's news. It's not good news, but it's fact. I mean, when you put it out and we have several people pick up to quote, and we have one coming back to quote, and those discussions are happening at the county level. So I'm sure, Joe, in your meetings forthcoming with other CAOs, the talk will be about getting regional, and then it makes it competitive for someone from out of town to come in. Just so happens probably the worst year to negotiate a contract for garbage with the inflation that Mr. Longwell spoke about. Okay, is there any other questions? Seeing none, council's pleasure. Councilor Desjardins moves, support Councilor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Mr. Militia, Mr. Longwell. Okay, facility field user agreement with LaSalle Stompers. Ms. Finero.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. This report is in respect to a formal agreement that's been created with the LaSalle Stompers for facility and field use at the Vollmer complex. This is keeping with our updated practice to enter into formal agreements with our regular facility user groups. The agreement is for 3 years, and it contains the standard information that's included in all of our user group agreements. And I'm available should there be any questions on that.
Okay, thank you. Council questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Councilor Edico Spagnolo and support by Councilor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Did you have a, okay, sorry, Mr. Councilor Ekpater, your hand didn't move, so I didn't know if you had a question. I take it that's a no. Okay. All right, Ms. Finero, you're up again with the agreement with Robertson Amusements for LaSalle Strawberry Festival.
Thank you. Yes, again, Your Worship and members of council, this is another agreement being brought forward. This one is for Robertson agreement for the Strawberry Festival for 2022. There are some additions to the agreement from previous years, particularly with information related to the pandemic, and should we have further restrictions come back into play as we move closer to the festival. The agreement is only for a 1-year extension, and that was at the request of Robertson Amusement so that we can monitor the post-pandemic response and spending at the festival prior to entering into the typical 3 to 5 year agreement. And again, I'm available should there be any questions on them.
Council questions. Councilor Reno.
Thank you through your worship. Patty, thank you very much, and thank you for putting this in front of us. I had a chance to read through it, and I'm glad to see that there's also some language in there about moving locations, as that will be an issue again in the future. So I think it's been well taken care of, and I think you dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's. So thank you and good work.
Any other questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Councilor Reno, support Deputy Mayor Malash. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Now we have our clerk, Ms. Astrologo, Director of Council Services and Clerk.
Good evening, members and mayor of council and mayor. Members of council and mayor. You have before you the report on a lame duck council, and that's one of those election reports that Council Services prepares every election cycle. And in the report, we've outlined what it means for council to be a lame duck. And what that means is if 75% of the members of council, so in this case, we need 6 of 7 members of council to either rerun for election or get elected after the election is held for council to avoid being in a lame duck. But if we have any less than 6 members getting reelected or any less than 6 members running for positions, different positions on council. Council will end up in a lame duck status. And what that means is there are certain acts council cannot take. And I've listed them in my report, and those being removal of officers appointed to positions within the municipality, and disposing of any real or personal property in excess of $50,000 and making any expenditures in excess of $50,000. There is another provision prohibiting council from taking action with respect to hiring or terminating staff. However, that provision has already been accounted for in the delegation of authority bylaw, and that authority has already been delegated to our CAO. So what I am looking for tonight from council is direction to prepare the necessary bylaw so that if council happens to end up in a lame duck position, either after nomination day or following voting day, that we've delegated the authority to the CAO to continue to conduct council business. Subject to any questions, that's what I'm looking for. That's what we're looking for from council this evening.
Thank you. Council questions? Seeing none, they all agree. Councillor Desjardins, question or moving?
Moving the motion.
Okay, support. Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. And you're up again with the procedure bylaw.
So yes, so this report is just an information report at this time, basically to present the draft procedure bylaw to council so that you have ample opportunity to review that. The intent is to bring a more comprehensive report at the next meeting so that council can ask any questions and any amendments can be made to the bylaw at that time before adoption.
Thank you. Council questions? Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support Councillor Renault. All in favor? That carries. Thank you, Ms. Estrolabo. Okay, now we go to e-voting service provider, municipal election.
Another election report for this evening. Yeah, so this is just the giving council information on the selection of our e-voting service provider that is going to be CITL for the municipal election, and subject to any questions, it's really just an information report.
Council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Deputy Mayor Meloche. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Life Rings at Waterways, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I'm just going to provide some information tonight on how we manage our life rings at open waterways across the township. This is in response and follow up to a question received from council. So there really is no regulation in Ontario or Canada on how to administer and use life rings. It really varies municipality to municipality, and everyone kind of does what works for them. What we do in LaSalle seems to be similar to what most do. And what that is we have life rings at various locations where we promote access or promote use of that water. So for instance, we have them, a number of them at the waterfront, and we have them at the Vollmer Pond, as we have the Model Boat Club uses the Vollmer Pond. We do not have them at other stormwater management facilities, and we do not have them along Turkey Creek, as we're not really promoting the use of that water, although, you know, there are facilities adjacent to it. So we put them where we feel the appropriate locations are, and that's how we've been doing it and plan to continue doing it. And as new facilities and amenities come along waterways, whether it be the Front Row Park or, for instance, the canoe dock on Turkey Creek, we'll look to put them in at those locations where we see fit. And if council has any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Osborne. Council questions? Seeing none, council's pleasure. Moved by Councillor Reynolds, support Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Summary of reports to council. Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, support Councillor Dicho Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. On the bylaws, we have 6 bylaws, oh, Councillor Carrick. Sorry.
Sorry, Your Worship, through you to Mr. Militia, I guess. So we can take the Front Road Old Arena site off of this report. Is that correct?
Yes, we'll remove it for the next report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bylaws, 6 bylaws, all 3 readings. Moved by Deputy Mayor Meloche, support Councillor Desjardins. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Council questions? Seeing none. Statements by Councillor Edicio Spagnolo. Or do you have a statement?
I have a statement, but I think Mr. Militia wanted to say something.
Okay, Mr. Militia.
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to let the viewing audience know that we have begun our transition into the hybrid meeting model, and we intend to have so in chambers tonight, we have Councillor Desjardins and Councillor Carrick. Online, we have the remaining members of council. For the meeting on the 26th, we intend to have members of council either in chambers or participating virtually, but we intend to have the public available at the 26th meeting. That is also provided that the health conditions continue to be in an acceptable state and that we don't hear any changes from the provincial or local medical officers of health. But we did meet earlier today to discuss the setup of the chamber. So it'll be a little different than what perhaps members of council may recall from pre-pandemic style. But again, we intend on having council meetings back in chambers starting on the 26th. So again, just to give certainly the viewing audience as well as members of council an update on that.
Thank you, Mr. Militia. Councillor Edicio Spagnolo.
Thank you, through you. So just a couple of comments. One, I would like to thank Mr. Mara and his team. I know a while back I put in a request if we can have a couple of extra benches at some local parks. And I have noticed that there has been some extra benches, and I think it's great. It's very well received. You don't see so many parents standing at the playground as much now. So thank you for that. I wanted to acknowledge that. And then the second thing I'd like to acknowledge is the wonderful staff at the Balmer. I was at the Play for a Cure event all day Friday and evening, and the staff at the Balmer were very professional and were great with picking up the garbage, to the request of extra tables, to just very smiley and friendly faces. And it was well appreciated by the volunteers and by the organizers. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. I actually even had a couple of residents come forward at the game that evening and made some comments as well. So just wanted to recognize and just show some appreciation to the hardworking staff.
Thank you, Councillor Edicio Spagnolo. It's nice to hear that, because the good comments we don't hear often. So when we do hear them, it's comforting. Any other statements by council members? Councillor Carrick and then Councillor Reno.
Just a quick comment. I was at the boat launch on Sunday around 12:30, and it was so packed. I've never seen it that packed at the front row there before. Parking everywhere. So I just want to give kudos to the staff that was working there. That person did an excellent job and was very courteous in dealing with a huge amount of boaters with trailers and everything else. It was really packed. So kudos to her.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Carrick. Councillor Reno.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had the distinct pleasure of representing the mayor last week at the Play for a Cure draft party. And I want to thank you for that opportunity, as I got to see an amazing organization of people, an organization of spirit. These individuals came together and put together an incredible fundraiser for an incredible number of causes. And from our side of it, I was constantly asking the people at my table, which included Mr. Bison and Mr. Stitchholler, how things were going between the two parties. Were we able to accommodate the needs of this tournament? Were they easy to get along with? And I had a chance to talk to Mr. Casey, and everybody was very happy with the treatment that they got from either side. So hats off to everyone involved at the town of LaSalle, because I know it's more than just a few people down at the rink. I know that there's a lot that it takes to get this done. And so hats off to all of you, and hats off to Mr. Casey and his group, because they've done a great thing for the community. And I think the town of LaSalle as a whole should be proud to be partnering with such an organization.
Councilor Reno, thank you for going in my position. Obviously, I could not attend that or the event, but it's nice to hear good news, and I believe a good amount of money was raised, so for a good cause, obviously. Thank you. Reports from committees. Notices of motion. Okay, conformatory bylaw, all 3 readings. Moved by Councillor Dicho Spagnolo and Councillor Akpata. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. You have your notice of meetings coming up. We'll see you all on the 26th, if not before. Thank you, councillors and viewing audience who've joined us on YouTube. Good night, everyone. Stay well.